Okay, recording now, and sorry for the people watching the recording. This is slightly late, but try this exercise if you're following along with the recording. Try this exercise. And I'll give you about 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. Let's see if you guys can get this done in 2 minutes. For some people, this might seem really slow. You might already know how to do this, but yeah, just stay with us. Hopefully, we'll get to something more challenging soon. And remember, if anyone needs help, feel free to message me. And I will also be creating a Slack channel. I'll create a Slack channel right now for our introduction to programming. And you can feel free to put any questions there later if you have any for me. Intro to Programming Workshop. Okay, create. VS Code is better than Replit than Sublime Text. I personally believe the order to that should be this is only for Python, right? PyCharm, then VS Code, then Replit, then Sublime Text. I used to use Sublime Text a lot, but the thing is right now it doesn't have the best Linux UI, so that's why I don't use it anymore as much. But yeah, that's my personal NeoVim. I mean, hey, I know someone who used to be like a hardcore guy and like used Vim and stuff, but yeah, at the end of the day, it just comes down to which one do you like better. I mean, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it just comes down to which one you like better. And I will say it just which one you like better. It doesn't really matter. And there's gonna be our link to join the introduction to programming. For now, you can keep all your questions in the chat, but later you can put something in there if you have any more questions for me. And feel free to mention me. I am friendly, hopefully. Yeah. So let's go over the answer to this exercise right now. So replit.com. I do not have this open. This is what you should not do. Then we can do new replit here. You see in the top left, you can press new replit, and then we can do Python, right? And it just gives you an automatic name. I can just type X. Yeah, you know what? Just. I cannot type today. I'm not going to try typing. Create REPL, right? And now we have this interface, right? So to the left, we have our files. In the main, we have this coding window, and to the right, we have our console, right? So let's try. So who has an idea on how we can be able to print name? Anyone? Just raise your hand. I don't bite. Yeah, I'll make this a bit bigger for y'all. So what do you think we should type here to be able to print our name? To print my name. Come on. I believe in all of you. No one? I hate to do it myself, but okay. If no one's willing to volunteer, I could cold call on someone. Okay, I will do this example myself for now. But next time, guys, please try to contribute. You won't learn unless you actually do it yourself, okay? Just like our keynote speaker said today, you have to do it. You can't just listen to it. You can't just read it. You have to do it yourself in order to learn it. So in this case, printing your name is quite easy. You just type print, and then our parentheses, right? And then in here, you have your quotation marks, which I explained earlier. You have to make sure you put it in quotation marks. I will get more deep into it, why you have to do it later, but for now, just remember quotation marks. And you can just print your name, right? And then you press run, it does it, and there's your name. Okay, let's get back into the slideshow now. Okay, so now we have variables. Variables are a key part. They are very important, okay? So a variable in programming is quite similar to a variable in math, where it just stores something, right? In math, it stores a number. In programming, it can be stored a number, it can store something else. And so like keys, they store data. And they're just like a box. You can think of it as a box. You can put some data, more data, all the data, whatever. So there's a bunch of different types of variables, right? We have integers. So integers are positive or negative numbers. This is the exact same as math class. So if you paid attention to math, you would be good at this. But integers are positive or negative numbers. Not decimals though, just positive or negative numbers. Floats are positive or negative decimal numbers. They're not called rational numbers, whatever. They're called floats for positive and negative decimal numbers. We also have strings, which are for text, which I showed you earlier with the quotation marks. And we also have Boolean, which are true or false, 1 or 0, whatever you want to call it. And so try storing your name in a variable. And remember, this is how we create a variable. You first type your variable name, and then you just do equals, and then what you want to put inside of it. So try storing your name inside a variable. And once you have done it, put your Replit link in the chat, and I can go through it. So try doing this. It shouldn't take you too long. It should be quite simple. And everyone, please do these exercises. If you don't, you won't remember. Yeah. This shouldn't take too long. I'll give you like a minute more. This shouldn't take too long. Guys, please try to show me that you guys are doing stuff, because it's you have to practice. Just listening or watching a tutorial, that won't help. You have to actually do it yourself. Yeah, and then you can also feel free to check out your fellow students' work too. Let's see. We'll go through a few of these.
So you want us to type my variable?
You don't have to call it my variable. You can call it something else. You can call it like name, or you can call it. It doesn't matter what you call it. These you see to the right where it says remember. These are just things that I want you to keep in mind. Just references that you can use. But just looking through all the things that I have. Python. So I will get into more complex things later. I'm trying to make sure everyone has something that I can go through for them. But yeah, I will try to speed this up, especially since yeah, we should get going. Okay, so it is quite simple. You just come here. You can just do name equals Owen, right? And then if I can type, and then if you want to, you can do print and then your name, right? And so I saw many of you guys doing this. So basically, you sit and print your variable, and then so it goes looks. Oh, what's your variable name? So basically, when you're running the code, the computer first comes here and says, okay, what's the name? We're gonna put Owen Wang inside to name, and then it comes here, print, and then it prints out name, right? So you run this same thing as before, as expected. Whoopsies, I closed out that. Now let's continue, right? So we already did this kind of. If you want to try this again, print out, store your name in a variable, and then print out your name. So math, there's just basically some basic arithmetic operators. There's add, subtract, multiply, divide, and there's a few more, but we won't get into those right now. And print the sum of 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. This shouldn't be too hard. I'll just give you guys a minute for this, right? That shouldn't be too hard. A minute or two. And you can use your same replit. You can use a new replit. It doesn't really matter. As long as you're trying the exercises. Remember, if you need help, always feel free to ask. Okay, that should be around enough time for just do 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. And this is really simple. You just need your one print statement, right? And you just have to do 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. How many times do you do it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. Yeah, and simple, right? It does the math. It gives you 10 as expected. And let's go back to present. And so try creating a variable, putting 5 into the variable, adding 5 to the variable, and printing that out. See if you can figure out a way on how to do that. Okay, that should be enough time. I shall go over the answer now. Um, so basically, you first want to create variable, right? So you can just say like number equals 5, for example, right? And then we want to add 5 to the number and print it out, right? So some of you might think, okay, we do number plus 5 and then print number, right? So if we run it and we see, oh no, it's still 5. So why is it still 5? Oh wait, yeah, why is it still 5? It should say 10, right? So the thing actually is that with computers, you just say add 5 to the number, right? But it's just like pretend you say 5 plus 5 and you do nothing with the 10, right? You get 10, you do nothing with it. That's what's happening right here, right? So what we want to do is actually, we're going to put number equals number plus 5, which means first store 5 into number, and then we're going to take the value of number, add 5 to it, so it becomes 10, and we're going to put that 10 back into number. So now number equals 10, so we print out number, it will equal 10. And another way to do it is we don't even need the second line. We can just do number plus 5 here, which will say, okay, store 5 into number, the variable number, and then now we're going to print out number plus 5, which is 5 plus 5 equals 10. It will print out 10. So these are both two completely valid ways of doing it. Yeah. So try printing out hello plus world. So not just hello world. Try printing out hello, the string hello, plus the string world. And so right now you might be slightly confused, right? You're saying, how do we add two texts together? Well, I want you to try printing it out and you'll see what happens.
Hello, so I actually had some doubts. Hello,
Hello?
am I audible?
Yep.
Yeah, so I actually know all of this. So can I leave this one and work on the project to submit in the hackathon? Would that
Yeah, you can
be
feel free to
okay?
come and go, yeah. Um, once you know functions like that, I'm gonna try to go through this whole presentation. At the end, we'll do classes and stuff, but if you guys would be fine with staying on, because the next one is AWS, you might want to go to that, but if you don't want to go to that, well, I can continue going through this presentation for maybe another, like, 2 hours to just get through all of it and teach you guys all of it if you want to, or you can just leave. Just feel free to do whatever you want. I will stay on here, keep going through the
I
presentation.
personally would like to go to the AWS one.
Okay, yeah. Feel free to go wherever you want because we have a lot of completely beginners. We have some people who know their stuff already. So yeah.
Okay,
Okay, let's
thank you.
go. Yeah. So let's go over this answer now, right? So this is pretty simple. You just do print, and then you just do a string hello, and then plus world, right? Then I just have your hello plus world. Now if you run it, you'll see this isn't like math, right? It actually just adds these two strings together, right? So so when you try to add strings, what it does is something called concatenation, which means it takes the first string and sticks the second string on the end of it. Okay, let's continue now. So we can also type in input. So this is really important. Input, user input is a key part of many programs. And so with Python, we can do a simple input with just typing input, opening parentheses, and like a little message, and then closing parentheses. So we have an example here. So user input here is a variable, and then we have input, and then please type your name. So what will happen is that the user will type their name or type whatever, and when they hit enter, it will take whatever they typed and store it into user input, the variable. And so let's try this. Let's try asking for someone's name and then greeting them. So remember in the input function and the print function, and remember string concatenation and variables. Those will be the main things you'll need for this. And so see if you can try making this. See if you can try taking the user's input and then printing out hello and their name. Yep, go ahead.
Is there a way to like make notes in your code without
Yeah.
it showing?
Okay, yep. So I will go through that during when I show the answer to this. Okay. Um, I guess I'll go through the answer to this now. So what you do is you first want to get their input right. So you can type input and then please enter your name. Right? So the thing is, we get their name, right? But we want to store their name. We don't want to just get it and then just like throw it away, right? So we want to make sure we put this in a variable, right? So we can do name equals input.name. So now what's going to happen is we're going to ask them, please enter your name. They're going to enter their name, and we're going to store a name, right? So now we have one half of it done. Now we have to do the printing out part, right? So remember, string concatenation, right? So we can do hello, and then plus their name, and then plus our little exclamation mark. So you see, so we first ask, please enter your name. We get the input of that, and we store it into name, and then we print hello, stick their name onto the end of hello, and then stick a exclamation mark on the end of their name. So if you run this, we have please enter name. I can do Owen Wang, and then it says hello. Very nice. Okay, so let's continue going through. So now if statements. If statements are also really important. So basically, it's kind of like self-explanatory. It runs something if something is true, right? So we have if. Okay, let me turn on the laser pointer actually. So we have if, and then we have our parentheses, and we have our conditional. And I'll go through conditionals a bit more later, but basically it's saying if this thing inside this parentheses is equal to true, then we're going to run our code, right? And so here's an example. We have sunny, and we set it equal to true. And remember, notice that this true is capital T. Make sure it's capital. We set sunny equals true. And so we do if sunny, and we know sunny is equal to true, so this will be true here. And then it will run because this is true. And so then it will print it is a nice day. Right? So try coding an if statement that always runs. So try thinking on how you would be able to do this, how you would code an if statement that always runs. There's a few ways to do this. You could, actually, I'll explain the ways later. Yes, try seeing if you can code an if statement that will always run. And I'll give you like 2 minutes for this. Actually, is there anyone who's not done right now? Because, if we could keep going, that would be also fine. So is there anyone who's not done right now? Anyone who'd like some more time? Okay, I guess I will tell you the answer to this now. In that case, so there's a few ways, right? So we could try first creating a variable. So like, my variable equals true, right? And then we do if, and then my variable, and then our colon, and then you see how this is indented here, right? You see how this is slightly inside of the if, right? Python is a very indentation-based language. You have to make sure indentation is correct. So you have to make sure if it's inside of the if statement, it's always indented here. And your indentation could be 2 spaces, a tab, 4 spaces, whatever, but it has to remain consistent. Replit automatically gives you 2 spaces, so that's what I'll stay with right now. So you can do if my variable, and then just print this code ran. And then if we run, this will always run, no matter how many times I do it. This will always run, right? So that's one way. Another way is we don't even need a variable. We just directly put true here. And so true is always true, right? So if you run it, this will always run. So these are the 2 ways that you could do it. Of course, there probably are other ways, if you could get like really complex, you first do this and that. But this is basically the 2 simplest ways that you could make this accomplished. So now, we can also do else statements. So basically, else statements are, so if one thing is true, then it will run it. But if it's not true, then it will run the else statement. So you see here, right? We have cloudy equals false, and we do if cloudy. So, and then we have an else. So what do you think this will print right here? If we run this, what do you think this will print? So you can put that in the chat. What do you think that will print? So we have cloudy equals false here, and we do if cloudy. And so what do you think this will print? Okay, we have one answer. Anyone else? Guys, participation is very important here, okay? We have 2 answers now. In an ideal world, I would hope we get 8 answers or 7 answers, but I guess we'll move on. Yeah, go ahead.
So I fell behind. So is this like presentation like have the slides available?
Yep, I will publish the slides later. But yeah,
Okay.
everyone who is answering is correct. It is go to the beach. Because if we see here, right, it says cloudy equals false, right? So we know it's not going to run the if statement. And if it doesn't run the if statement, it will run the else statement. So it will say go to the beach. So try making an if and an else statement. Try to see if you can do this. And yeah, I'll give you guys a minute or 2. It shouldn't take too long. Okay, so is anyone not done right now? Going once, going twice. Anyone not ready? Okay, I guess I'll show the answer to this now. So we can keep our if statement, right? And then we just have to add an else, right? Else. Else, right? And then else here we can do print the else ran, right? So if we run this, of course, it will always say this code ran because this is true, and true is always true. But if we turn this to false, right? False, the now the else ran, and of course it will stay the else ran forever until we change this back to true, right? So that's basically if else statements there. And so now the final thing, that component we have in an if statement, is an elif. That's called an else if. So basically, it's basically what happens is if the if doesn't run. If the if doesn't run, then it will try the elif. And if the elif doesn't run, then it will try the else. So in this case here, what do you think this code will run? What do you think it will print? Okay, we have someone who says stay inside. Anything else? Any objections? Stay inside. Okay, very nice. That is the correct answer. It is stay inside. So we see cloudy is false, right? So the if statement is not going to run. So it goes to the else if. And rainy, right? Rainy is true, so it will run the else if. And then once it runs one of these, it skips. It doesn't. So it goes. It first goes. So it does this sequentially, right? So the code comes here. It does this. And it comes here. It does this. And it comes here. This is false. So it does this. It does this. This is true, so it runs this, and then it will skip to the end of the if statement. So it will not run the else. Basically, in an if statement, it will not run. Once it runs one of them, it will go to the end, and it will not run the rest. Okay, so we have a little exercise here. Try adding an else if to your previous thing. It shouldn't be too hard. I'll just give you guys a little bit of time. It shouldn't take too long. Okay, is anyone not done? I will take that as a no. So we have here, right? So we have an if, we have an else if, so now we can do an elif, right? And then we can add a condition here, and then we can. So I'm going to actually use some variables now. So if, let's just do var1 equals true equals, let's do false actually, and then actually, doesn't really matter, let's just stay with true, and then var2 equals also true. And if I do this var1, and this is var2, and let's just have us print the elif ran, right? So what do you think this will output? What do you think will be the output of this code right here? Will it be this code ran, the elif ran, or the else ran? And let me move my cursor. It seems like it's blocking. There you go. So what do you think this will run? What will be the output of this? Okay, so we have one person saying it's just going to be this code ran. It's only going to be outputting this code ran. Anything else? Any other ideas? Okay, we have an I agree. Nice, nice. Okay, so that is the correct answer. Only this code ran would output. Remember, in an if statement, it just goes, once one of them is true, it just skips to the end, right? So it will only print this code ran. It will not print the else if or the else, because the if worked, so then it will skip to the end. Okay, very nice. Let's continue. Conditionals. So conditionals are basically questions that have an answer that's either true or false. So two equal signs means are both equal. An exclamation and an equal is are both not equal. And less than or equal to, and then greater than or equal to. So of course we can't write a greater than or equal to sign. We have to write a greater than sign and then an equal sign. So yeah. So if x double equals 5, print yay. So if x was 4, this would not work. If x is 5, then it would work, right? And so try creating an if statement that will run when a number is greater than 100, and try creating an if statement that will run when the number is less than or equal to 100. So 1 is greater than 100, and 1 is less than or equal to 100. So try creating both of these if statements. Actually, you can create an if and an elif, but don't use an else. Don't use else. Just do if and elif. So I'll give you guys maybe a minute for that. Okay, is anyone not done? Nope. Okay, we will go over the answers to this then. So first, we need one if statement, right? If, here, let's create a variable. Let's do it, call x, let's do 500, right? And we can create our if statement, and then we have first, if x is greater than 100, and we can run like print, this is a, oh wait, you see I forgot something, I forgot the quotation marks. This is a big number, exclamation mark, right? And then we can make an else if, elif, and x is less than or equal to 100. Then we can say print this number is not as big, right? And if we see here, it's of course going to do 500 because it's bigger than 100. And if we do like just 50 here, then it will say this number is not as big. So great, it works. So now lists. Lists are a collection of data. Basically, you can think of it as a bunch of variables put together. So, and they can also have multiple variable types. You see we have a string here, we have a integer, we have a float, and this true is supposed to be capital, but yeah, we also have a boolean here, right? So try creating a list with some stuff in it. Not exactly these things. Try to do multiple variable types, but not exactly this, right? So try creating a list. And this shouldn't take more than like 30 seconds or something. Okay, has anyone not created their list? Okay, let's go over it then. So we can just call it list, or actually no, we cannot call it list. Wait, can we call it list? No, we cannot call it list. Let's call it my list, right? Or like Owen list, right? And then we can do that. And we have our brackets, which means it's a list, and we can do like an integer. We could do a float. We could do a boolean. And we can do a string, right? So we can do, hey, so this is my list, right? So what do you think will happen if we run? If we run it? What do you think will happen if we press run right now? What do you think will happen? Okay, we have nothing. Anyone else have any other ideas? Anyone else? Okay, well, I'll move on now. The correct answer is nothing because we just say, okay, store this list. We don't say anything to do with that list, so it just stores it, and then it does nothing else. Okay, let's continue. So indices. So indices are kind of like an address. So you see here, right? So we have our list X, And so addresses, indices in programming always start at 0 for most languages, including Python. So you see here this list, we have x, right? And then we have our first element here, and this is at 0. We have our second element here, and this is at 1. We have our third element here, and this is at 2, right? We can also do reverse indices. So our last one is -1, not -0. Our second to last one is -2, and our third to last one is -3. So try using your list, right? Try creating a list. Try using a list you created in your previous exercise, and get the second element. Okay. And try to remember the difference between the element and the indice. So try to get the second element. And once you get the second element, you can print that out because, there's not really much else you can do with it. So try getting the second element and printing it out. I'll give like a minute for this. It shouldn't take too long. Actually, just like half a minute or whatever. Okay, has anyone not finished this? No one? Okay. Let's go over the answer then. So, we have our list here, right? The second element, we remember this is index 0, and this is the second element at index 1, right? So we just do print, and then we do the list name, Owen list, and then bracket, which specifies the indices, and then we do 1, because remember, element 2 is at index 1, because it's 0, 1, right? So here, 1.9, 1.9, so that works out. Okay, and now for loops. So for loops are used to loop through lists. Okay, so we have for element in X. So what happens is that, so it goes through it for the first time, right? So first time it loops through it, it takes 4, and it sets element equal to the first element, and then runs this code. And then it will come to the second element and set this into element and run the code. And then it will come to the third one and set this to element, set element to this, and run the code. And then we'll come to the next one, set element to this, and run the code. And then it will set element to this and run the code, and set element to this to run the code. And so Python has a function called range, which will return numbers from 0 to the number that you specified in here, -1. So if you do range 5, we'll return a list of 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So try making a loop that loops through the list, loops through this list, and prints it out. So I'll give a bit more time for this. Remember, feel free to ask questions if you don't understand something. Okay, is anyone not finished? No one? Okay. So, we can, our list, right? List, our num list is equal to brackets and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That's what I did. Oh, 6. 6, right? And then we just do a for loop, right? And then for we can do number in num list, and we do print and then number, right? So what do you think will happen if we run this right now? What do you think will happen? Any ideas? You can just say it out loud or you can put it in the chat. Yeah, it will just go through and print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? It goes through this one, prints it out, this one, and then prints out number, it sets number to this, prints it out, sets number to this, prints out number, sets number to this, prints out number, etc., etc., etc. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So there's one more way we could do this. We can use range, right? We can do numList equals range. And then remember, range, you can give it one value, so we can give it 6, or no, 7, because it goes up to 0 to 6, to 7 minus 1. So this is the thing with this, is it will print out 0, right? We don't want 0. So what we can do is we can do 1, and give this two values, right? We can give it a start value and a stop value. So now, it will produce the same thing. And what we can do is even just remove this variable. We can just set range here, and copy it, and we just replace numList here with it. So we don't even need to create a variable now. So this will accomplish the exact same thing. Okay, so now a different type of loops, while loops. So while loops are also kind of like if statements, where there's a conditional here. Okay, and it will keep running until the condition is met. Once the condition turns to false, then it will stop running. So basically it says, well, the thing inside these parentheses is true, it will keep running. When it equals to false, it will stop running. Okay, so, I just realized I just left off on this, but I meant to ask, what do you think will happen if I, oh, whoopsies, wrong button. What do you think will happen if I run this code right here? What do you think will happen? Anyone have any ideas? Okay, yeah. It will print out 0 to 4, right? So you can kind of think like the computer, right? Okay, so we first come to this first line. We set x equal to 0. Okay, x is equal to 0 now. And while x is less than 5. So is 0 less than 5? Yeah, it is. So let's print out 0, and then add 1 to 0. Now you see this thing, right? You've never seen this before? This means this is the same as x equals x plus 1. This is just a short way to say it. So instead of doing x equals x plus 1, you can just do x plus equals 1. So I'll be using that from now on. But it just basically says, comes here, x equals 0. Is 0 less than 5? Yes. So it prints out 0, adds 1 to it. So now 0 is equal to 1, x is equal to 1. Now it comes back here. Is 1 less than 5? Yes, it is. So it will print out 1, and then it will become, add 1, so it will become 2 now. Is 2 less than 5? Is 3 less than 5? Is 4 less than 5? And then finally, is 5 less than 5? No, it is not. So then it will stop looping and will continue through the program. Try printing out the numbers 1 through 100. 1 through 100. And try this with a for loop and try it with a while loop. Try it with both of them. And remember to use range when you're using the for loop, right? Don't create a list manually with 1 to 100. Try using range if you for the for loop, and try doing it with a while loop too. Okay, does anyone, I think that was a bit fast. Does anyone need more time? No? Okay. Um, let's first do this with our for loop. So with a for loop, right, we can use range, right? So instead of doing 1 and 7, we can just do 1 to 1000. Print that out. There we go. Actually, this is to 999, right? Remember, it doesn't do the last number, so we actually have to do 1001 to get it to 1000, right? So, very nice. We have 1 all the way up to 1000. Okay. Now, how do we do this with a for loop? So we have to create a variable. So we can do this count, and we want to start at 1, right? Because we're printing out 1 first. Then we do while count is less than or equal to 1000. So while it's less than or equal to 1000, then run this code. We do print out count, and then we do count plus equals 1. Add 1 to count, and so this will eventually give us the same thing. It will start at 1, come all the way up to 1000, right? Okay. Can I just do a clear? Nope. Like that. Okay. So that's how you do it with a for loop and a while loop. So modules. So modules are like libraries in other programming languages. They're called modules in Python because Python is special. Actually, let me check the time. So it is 2 p.m. right now. So um, the AWS workshop starting now. You can stay here. I will continue to stay here and continue to the rest of these slides. So if you would like to stay here, you can. If you would like to go to the other workshop or work on your project, you can too. So it's just your choice. If you want to stay on here, I can continue. If you do not want to, feel free to leave now. Okay, but to continue, modules. Modules are like libraries in other programming languages. And so modules are like blocks of code that bring extra functionality so that we do not have to program it ourselves. So basically someone one day, they're like, oh, there's this cool feature that I want to do, but I have to write a ton of code for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a module, and I can just import that module, and I'll be able to just run this thing, and it will be able to do it for me, so I don't have to write all the code again myself. So the way we use a module is you do import and then the module name. And so if you don't use something like Replit, you'll have to make sure you have the module installed on your computer through like pip or something. But on Replit, you just have to do import and then it will automatically install it for you. So we're not going to focus too much on that. We're going to just continue on to functions. So functions are a block of code that can be used to do something. And it can take in an input parameters and return an output. So you see here, we have def, that just means define, which means just create a function, and then add. This is our function name, and then our opening parentheses, and these are our parameters, our inputs, right? Input 1, input 2, num1, num2, and then we have return statement. Return statements are basically, once you finish the output, then you take this number and you return it to the place that you called it. So return num1 plus num2, so if you do result equals add 3 and 5, this will say, okay, 3 comes in here, 5 comes in here, it will return 3 plus 5, which is 8. And then what happens when return, right? Once you return it, this piece of code right here, this function call just gets replaced with the return, what it returns. So this becomes 8, right? This gets replaced with 8 because this returned 8, so this gets replaced with 8, and then its result equals 8. So now, result is equal to 8. So try creating your own function to greet someone. So it will be, you'll give in the parameter, it will be name, you'll give in the name as a parameter, and then it will return the greeting. So try doing that.
Is this
Okay.
over?
Um, well, you can continue with me if you want to, or you can leave. It's your choice. Um, yeah, technically this workshop period is over, but I'm going to continue this as long as there's going to still be people. This might eventually turn into one-on-one lesson, but yeah. See if you can create this exercise. Is everyone done with this? Does anyone need more time? No? Okay, I'll show the example for this, right? So you do is you do define, and then we want to call it something, right? You can call it greet. And here we can do the name, right? Name as the parameter. What we can do is we can just do return, and then hello plus name, right? And of course, if we run this right now, nothing will happen because we never called the function. So we called the function, so we should do greet, and then Owen. Well, if we run this, still nothing's going to happen because we greet, it returns it here, but we do nothing with the return, right? So what we can do is we can wrap this in a print. We can do print here, and now if we do it, it will say hello Owen, right? And we can even do this to an even more extreme degree, is we can, instead of doing just giving it Owen, we can give it an input, right? And then just say please enter your name, and it'll be like that, and you enter your name, and then it does hello, right? And so this might be a little complex, but it says first we have this input which gets your name, and then the input will return the name, and so this becomes the name here, right? So the name becomes here, right? This becomes the name here, because that's how return works, right? It replaces the call, the function call, which is when you type in the function name and the parentheses, replaces that with the return value. So this gets replaced with the return value, and then that gets in turn passed into the greet function. And the greet will return something, and then that will get passed into the print function, and the print function will finally print it out. For the last two people, are you guys still here? If not, then I will end here. Would you guys still like me to continue? Okay, I'm just going to take that as you guys have died or something. In that case, I will be ending here now. Have a nice day if you're still here.